Hi, and welcome to the Word of the Week. This week's word is learning. Now, here at the Martial Arts and Wellness Center for the month of September, we're using as our theme, to learn is to grow. And it's the perfect time. It's fall. Everybody's back in school, and this is the time everybody's getting back into that learning mindset. And I think sometimes when we think about learning, we get a little bit hung up on the idea of what learning really is and why is learning is so important. Now, to me, learning is very important because I've done a core value assessment, and to me, my number one value is learning. I need to learn. I value that more than everything else. It's my ability to learn and to gain information, to gain insight through everything that I do, all these processes. So learning is super, super cool to me. But a lot of times when people think about learning, they get this level of frustration because to them learning is just acquiring the information or mastering some task. And if they don't get it, if it doesn't make sense, if they can't feel like they've mastered it, then they get frustrated and feel that they're not learning. Well, I'm here to tell you that everything is learning. You either learn how to do something, or you learn that you need to learn how to do something. You find out what you know, or you find out what you don't know. In either way, that is a process, and it's something that is getting you closer to where you want to be. So learning can be gaining knowledge or understanding, or it can also be thought of to come to a realization. So what I want to do is I want to challenge people to think about, what did you learn today? Because if you're not learning, you're not growing. You're not gaining more information. You're not gaining more knowledge. You're not gaining more experience. You're staying stagnant, and we know that nothing can really stay stagnant. You're either moving ahead or you're moving back. So what did you learn today? And this is the challenge that I'm putting out to everyone. I would like everyone that's watching this video to every day write down, at the end of the day, write down 2 things that you learned. Right? One of them, make it something that you acquired, some new piece of information that you acquired. Maybe it's you learned something new in school. You learned a fact today. Maybe if you were in the martial arts school, you learned a new technique, or you learned a new form, or you learned a new word. So you gained some knowledge. Right? The other thing is, I want you to think about something that you learned, something that you came to a realization about. Right? So maybe you learned that you need to get up a half hour earlier if you want to get everything done. Maybe you learned that you're too hard on yourself. Maybe you learned that you need to show your appreciation to others more. Right? So there's all kinds of ways that we can learn. And I think everybody, if you focus on the things that you learn, when you look at the end of the day that, yeah, I learned these things. At the end of the week, you'll start to see that you've grown in so many ways, because just if every day you only learn 2 things, at the end of a week, that's 14 things. That's great. If at the end of a year, how many things have you learned? At the end of 10 years, how many things you learned? If you just every day learn 2 things. But we know we've all learned much more than 2 things in the course of a day. But just narrow them down to 2 to start out with. Right? If you can come up with more, good for you. But just try to come up with 2 and see how that changes your perception on your learning, on your development, on your growth. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson, and hope to see you next week.